Okay, here we are. Alt.nerd.obsessive. Worst episode ever.
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons, by people of The Simpsons, about how much we hate The Simpsons. We are here trying to find which is the worst episode ever. And as always, my name is Dan.
And as always, my name is Jack.
Today we have a very special episode that we're doing, guys. Guys and gals out there in the Wii universe. It is an episode from season 41, episode 17. It is called One Fish, Apu Fish, Ned Fish, Disco Stu Fish. Jack, have you seen this one?
No, we've been hearing a lot about it. We've definitely had a few people ask us to do this one.
Yeah.
But, we have that rule. Don't watch it. We don't watch any new episodes until they come out. So,
right.
This
is one of those episodes. The name has definitely come up before. Yeah. I've heard it talked about, but I don't know if it's a good episode or a bad episode.
I've stopped any expectations towards anything. Even if it's an episode I've seen before. Like last week we covered... what did we cover?
Last week we did Sweet and Sour's Marge.
And I've seen that one. It was season 13. I had some kind of expectation of it, and then it turned out to be one of our worst episodes ever.
It sure did.
So because of that, I'm just, this could be the best episode ever. This could be the worst episode ever. It could be mediocre. Yeah. I am just open.
We're open books.
I'm
at this
very
point.
open-minded to hating things.
Absolutely. And this is it must be a pretty recent one because I don't know. I don't really know anything about it.
Nope.
But we're gonna take a break and we're gonna watch it. If you haven't done that, you can probably do so on Simpsons World or wherever you watch the episodes. Just Google it. One Fish, Apu Fish, Ned Fish, Disco Stu Fish.
It'll come up.
You'll find it, and you can watch it. And we're gonna take a break.
We should do a newsletter plug. We should.
Because
we're having a lot of fun with it.
We are having a lot of fun with the newsletter. Newsletter.wepodcast.com. You can just go there to sign up now.
Yeah.
Make it nice and easy for you, or you can go to wepodcast.com like normal and click the link that says newsletter.
That works because you could also click the Reddit link.
That's
to
true.
Talk to us on Reddit. You can
Our
click,
Facebook, YouTube.
You can go to our YouTube. We're slowly adding all our episodes to YouTube.
Yeah, that's happening.
If you missed any of our or some of our video streams, some have been lost to time.
Yeah. But the ones we have are up there.
And I think they're copies of copies, so they're a little out of sync.
They're not quite as sharp as the original.
If you ever wanted to see what we would look like doing this podcast in like 1960s Japan, it would kind of look like that.
I would love to know what that would look like.
But
so check that out, wepodcast.com.
Check out the newsletter. It should be out by the time. This is coming out, early April? Late March.
Around April 1st, I think, is when this episode's coming out.
But probably late March. But there should be a newsletter out by then.
Yeah, so we're going to take a break. We're going to watch One Fish, Apu Fish, Ned Fish, Disco Stu Fish, and we will be back to talk about it with you.
So that was One Fish, Apu Fish, Ned Fish, Disco Stu Fish.
Man.
More like
a Pooh Fish.
Disco Who Fish, as in who wrote this episode? This was Odd Duck.
It was this very strange episode.
This was like Donald Duck's odd cousin. Who's an odd duck? Well, his name's not Odd Duck. He's just.
Did he actually have an odd cousin?
Yeah, I'm sure. Who doesn't?
I don't know.
Besides people whose parents don't have siblings.
Normal. Yeah. Donald Duck never wore pants. So that's strange.
That's kind of odd.
That's kind of odd.
I get it. I don't like wearing pants. Hey, I only do it as a courtesy to you.
Yeah.
For these sessions.
I tried wearing a little sailor's shirt and a sailor's hat and no pants and walked down Times Square, and people looked at me very funny. And I just said, "What? I'm Donald Duck. You want your picture with me?"
I was wondering why you went to jail that weekend.
Yeah, it was not a great weekend.
Your dad's a very good
cold
lawyer.
He is.
The fact that you were only in jail for 2 days, despite
it was a fine and a slap on the wrist.
The minors who saw your penis.
And I am banned from New York City forever. So we're recording from the Alkali Flats today.
That's Alkali Lake. Never mind.
Right.
I was like, what? That we're Weapon X?
Yeah.
Not just X-Men 2. Alkali Lake shows up in a lot of the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, because they based Weapon X there
2,
in the
3,
film series.
sort of the end of 1.
Sort of.
Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Others?
Possibly others.
Wolverine. Origins.
Of course. That gem that people wanted to forget.
Possibly, like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is an X-Men podcast.
This is not our X-Men podcast.
Instead of doing a recap... I think we should just jump right into it and do a scene by scene.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, I'm assuming everyone's watched the episode at this point, so you guys know what it's all about. So here, let's just start at the top.
It opens with them in the car.
They're in the car, yeah, and so many of the classic episodes open this way, where the kids are fighting in the back seat.
Yeah, and
Right. I did like they did the little musical sting. They don't usually do that
you're right.
in the HD era
The musical
episodes.
stings have been, and later on, we'll get to this, but later on, there's a scene at the grocery store.
Yeah.
And I like when they cut to the grocery store, they do the shopping cart rolling down. Yeah,
Yep,
that was
I love
great.
that.
But we'll get to that.
But they're in the car. Marge is driving, actually, which I thought was interesting
Yeah,
choice.
she's driving and Homer's in the passenger seat, but it's still Homer's car. It's not the orange station wagon.
Right, it's still the pink car. Homer's in the passenger seat, and the kids are in the back fighting.
Yeah, and Homer's not drunk. Like, here's the
He's
thing:
not.
You would think if you're going to do, well, I can't. I'm trying to think when else have we seen Marge driving? And even I'm trying to even think if it's Marge's car. When do we see Homer in the passenger seat and Marge?
Yeah, pretty rarely.
I mean,
very rarely.
When you were
happens.
growing up.
Yeah.
See, I come from a broken home.
Okay.
But you don't.
It's true.
You come from what's the opposite of broken?
A together home.
So, when you would go to family things, did your dad drive?
Typically, yeah.
Were there
Almost
times where
always.
your mother would drive, but your dad was in the car?
You know what? Offhand, I can't think of a single one.
Because I'm trying to think.
So a strange start to this episode right off the
Yeah,
bat.
I'm trying to think. I remember it would be weird when my dad would drive, like when my parents were still together. I was very young. When it would be weird when my dad would drive the minivan. Because my mom typically drove the minivan, but I do remember him doing it. I remember because this is true. I didn't like being buckled in. I didn't like it, which is funny because my dad doesn't either. He refuses to this day. He refuses to buckle in.
Interesting. Okay.
I was in the car with him yesterday, which is rare these days, and I was in the back seat, and the ding, 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 and I was like, oh, let me put the fucking thing. I don't like buckling up in the back seat.
right.
And I put it in, and I go, it's still dinging, and I go, oh yeah, my dad doesn't drive as much anymore since he had the. Open heart surgery, you're not allowed to drive because your ribs are tender or whatever, and if you hit the steering wheel,
that. Okay, that's bad.
So he actually had to have a pillow for like the first 6 months, like a car pillow that he had to put in front of his chest,
just in case he hit the steering wheel,
or if somebody stopped short and he hit the dashboard. Yeah,
Jeez,
in the passenger seat. But no, he refuses to put it anyway. So I guess I took after him at the time.
Yeah,
and I didn't like putting seatbelts, so he would go, all right, you can do it, but then you have to stand and hold the back of the seat. So I was like 3 feet tall, whatever I was, because I was a baby. So
he stood in the minivan holding the back of the seat.
And I would hold the back of the seat with like my face up against the back of his driver's seat.
That seems much more inconvenient.
I remember my mom being like, I don't think this is a great idea. My dad's like, shut up.
Well, and then,
they
the
got
divorce
divorced.
papers happened shortly thereafter.
But so my point is, it's weird to see somebody switch up the driving dynamic like
right.
that. And has it ever happened in The Simpsons is what I'm asking.
I don't think so. So off the top of the bat, they're already doing something original. We kind of like that.
Yeah.
But
here's... I like it in that it's different, but are they justifying it? Because, like I said, Homer's not drunk. If Homer is drunk, I go,
right.
they're coming from some kind of function. Homer's wasted. Marge has to drink. But he's not. He's totally sober.
Right, and they're going to the grocery store to buy all the things for the party that they're going to throw that night.
Yeah.
And the kids are in the back fighting. Bart's like, I don't want to do my homework. And Lisa's like, I love doing homework. The classic fight that they always have.
I don't want to be a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Because classic Simpsons would repeat kind of the same tropes.
Sure.
And I'm not giving them shit for that. It's like, oh, here they are again. But this is season 41. Maybe come up with a more original reason for them to fight.
It's getting stale a little bit.
Just give me something, like something specific. I guess specific is what I want.
Sure.
Like Mom, I can't make it propel the story. Like later on when the fish platter at the dinner party comes.
Yeah.
You would think set that up like Bart's touching me with his fish hands, like he was touching the fish at the super. Oh, well, I guess they're going to the supermarket.
Well, he does that Mr. Fish Hands bit in the grocery store scene. We're going to talk about that in a second.
Here's an easy fix.
Yeah.
What if they were driving from the supermarket instead of going to the supermarket?
Yeah.
That way because that's after the scene where Bart's doing the fish hands.
Sure.
And then he's trying to he's touching
He's
Lisa's
already
face.
fishy hands.
Yeah, exactly. And Mom, Bart's touching me with his fish. That's a very easy fix because what happens in this car scene on the way to the supermarket that couldn't have been done the way why is this here?
It could have just started at the grocery store.
Just for that one joke that Marge says when she's driving?
Right. I mean, when she says, good Lord. And then God is just like, hello, Marge. Yeah, it wasn't worth it. But it was an interesting joke.
That was weird.
That was really weird.
Like, that was a Family Guy joke to me.
Yes.
So, yeah, she stops short because...
Well, it starts with just dead silence first, which is strange. And then she stops short and goes, good Lord.
And then that hand comes out of the five-fingered hand comes out of the cloud and just goes, He goes,
Hello, Marge.
Yeah, exactly. That felt like a family, like it's like, hey, we're referencing God, cut to God. I mean, it's not a cut to, it's a pan up. But,
Right.
But it's basically a Family Guy cutaway.
It was kind of weird, and then the kids were just arguing about homework, and then they're at the grocery store.
Yeah,
we see the
shopping cart.
We see the shopping cart,
So
and
now
then
they're
they
in
walk
the
to the grocery
seafood
store.
section.
Right.
Lisa says something about, these poor lobsters in the lobster tank. I kind of want to set them free. And then Homer's like, oh, you could set them free in my mouth.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. I hated when he actually said gobble, gobble, gobble.
And then they look, and there's a live turkey.
Right.
All right. First of all, they're in the seafood
why would
section.
the turkey be in the seafood section?
They're in the seafood section.
Yeah.
It's like, even if you're in the poultry section, there's not typically live turkeys.
No.
If anything, there's ground turkey, turkey breasts.
Have these writers
turkey
ever
burgers.
been to the grocery store? Because it really sounds ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing. Look, these writers, they went to Harvard.
Right.
They don't go to your Acmes and your ShopRites and your AMPs.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
go to Gristedes.
They're at your D'Agostino's.
They probably got their fresh directs. The people come up and give, let me pick online.
I would like a fresh live turkey.
I'm assuming that's
Harvard.
a thing. Yeah. So they don't know what it's like down here in the
muck.
In the muck, going to the supermarket. The supermarket.
Yeah. Well, I like there was actual muck in the supermarket floor because they had just had that flood.
Right.
They only alluded to it, but it was disgusting.
But here's the thing about the turkey.
Yeah.
So besides it not making any sense for it to A, be live,
Right.
B, be in
Why are
the...
there just turkeys roaming the grocery store? It was very strange.
Although it's not that strange. Do you have a lot of relatives who go to the hospital on Staten Island? A lot of your relatives aren't from Staten Island, right?
No, I'd say the bulk of my relatives are not on Staten
So
Island.
between my dad and my deceased grandmother and my other grandparents, I go to the hospital a lot. Like,
Sure.
we should have our own parking spot by now. My dad was in the hospital twice in the last 3 weeks, and I didn't even know about it.
Oh, God.
Yeah, one he had double pneumonia, and
We're
the
learning
other
a lot about your dad and his health on this episode. Very interesting.
But anyway, so if you go to the Staten Island Hospital, it's actually a very famous hospital. We've mentioned this before. George
Yeah.
Harrison died there.
Yes? Was this SIHU?
Yeah,
Staten Island University
yeah,
Hospital?
exactly. Anyway, there's turkeys there, wild turkeys.
Yes,
it's-
not in the hospital.
No, they're right outside in the parking lot. Like, they live in the parking lot. They live up in the trees because
Yeah.
turkeys can fly, apparently.
Short distances,
a little bit,
yes.
yeah. So if you go to the hospital, they're usually just there. People get really mad because if you're driving, sometimes you have to stop and wait like 10 minutes while the turkeys go by.
Yeah.
And we're not joking. This is like a real...
This is an actual
This
thing.
is an actual thing. It's really funny. Every time I go to the hospital, there's just like a live turkey. It's just like hanging out. They're like literally just like hanging out.
Yeah. Literally, they hang from the tree branches.
But anyway, live turkey. Why is it live? Why is it in the seafood section?
Why is it here?
But
Why is it in
here's
the seafood
other thing.
section? Yeah.
So we'll get to one of the big of the two guest star. The big guest star. I guess I would say the less big of the two guest stars. Anthony Edwards is in it.
Right. Yep. Blackish star Anthony Edwards appears in this
And
episode.
obviously, is he? No, they think of Anthony Anderson.
Oh, well, he's the other guest star.
Yeah, he's the bigger guest star.
Yeah, right.
It's the two Anthonys.
Anthony Edwards from ER.
From ER,
Yes.
from Revenge of the Nerds.
Right.
But obviously, because of all the Goose references later, he Top Gun.
Of course, yes.
But here's what I'm saying. So they make these Goose references. They kind of one or two too many.
They're a little shoehorned in.
They're a little shoe honked in.
Shoe-honked in.
Honk.
I never thought we'd use shoe honked in again.
Then you got Anthony Edwards.
But then season 41.
So we just came up with a goose pun.
Yeah.
Why didn't they come up with a goose pun?
Yeah.
Make
'Cause
it a
they're-
goose instead of a turkey. I
Right.
guess. Look, you buy chicken at the supermarket, you buy turkey. I guess goose doesn't. Maybe if you're shopping at
Maybe the
Gristedes.com.
the most fancy website on the internet. Gristedes.com.
But you would think. I don't know. I feel like that would be a perfect time for a goose joke.
Yeah, it was strange and jarring that we just had turkeys roaming the supermarket while the family's
Right.
trying to buy fish.
But anyway, you got the Lisa lobster thing. You got Homer do gobble gobble gobble.
Gobble, 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 gobble. But then we mentioned
we get
Bart
the
doing
fish
the Mr.
hands,
Fish
yeah.
Hands bit, where he just sticks his hand into a pile of fish guts and he puts little fish hands on his little tiny boy hands.
Yeah, and he goes.
And he just goes, "Hey, everybody, I'm Mr. Fish Hands."
And it's clear that Nancy Cartwright is doing an impression of what's his face, Roper, not Roper, Barney Fife.
Don Knotts.
Don Knotts.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
So it's first
So
of
it's
all,
weird. Bart wouldn't know who Don Knotts is.
Does Bart do an
Hey,
impression?
everyone, it's Mr. Fish Hands.
He was so.
Lisa, do you like fish hands?
Look again.
It was strange.
Okay, I'm just gonna stereotype just because. I'm fancy Harvard writer here.
Yeah.
I'm making $125,000 a year.
Sure.
To write these Simpsons episodes.
You want to reference the Three's Company guy?
I'm a big Don Knotts fan. I grew up watching reruns of Three's Company and Andy Griffith.
Yep.
Do you really need to have Bart Simpson? Bart Simpson,
of all people.
I carumba, eat my shorts.
Right.
Bart Simpson, do a Don Knotts impression. Also, I don't know that much about Don Knotts. I don't think there's anything in his oeuvre where he has fish hands and he goes, "Look at me, I'm Mr. Fish." Like the fish hands and the Don Knotts are not, as far as I know, are not related.
I think there may have been an episode of Three's Company where he had to pretend to be a fish. I don't remember though. It had something to do with Jack Tripper pretending to be gay and Don Knotts pretending to be a fish.
That's right. In that episode,
Chrissy was trying to. She had the boyfriend who was a fisherman.
Yeah.
And he said, "I caught the biggest fish ever." And Jack wanted to be like, "I caught a bigger fish." And he had Mr. Roper dress up like a fish.
That was one of the weirdest
very strange episode.
Like they kept cutting away. It was like a weird Old Man in the Sea parody. Where and it's not even Jack or what was the name of the friend, the sleazy bachelor friend.
I can't remember the name.
It's not any of the
Let's
regulars.
call him Boner.
It's just this one extra, like this one-off Chrissy boyfriend who's in for one episode, and he gets his own entire plot where it's the Old Man in the sea, and they cut to like 4 or 5 times.
It was really weird.
Wait, was it?
It was post-classic Three's Company.
It is, but maybe it was a backdoor pilot. It had to have been.
It might. You're right.
Because
Chrissy's boyfriend was always talking about, "I always have these crazy characters on my boat, but we never saw them."
Right. It's like Married with Children. There's one episode where they just cut to Matt LeBlanc and a bunch of people. It's like Al and Christina Kelly, they show up for like one scene. It's like, what's going on? This is Married with Children, but it's a backdoor pilot for another show. Or like that episode of Seinfeld where suddenly they just spend time with Banya and like it's him and Reginald Vell Johnson.
Yeah,
and it's like, where is the
and they were
solving crimes? They were solving crimes, but it wasn't. He wasn't playing Carl. I mean, he plays a cop and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he was playing.
I think it was Banya was an amateur detective, and Reginald Vell Johnson was the super in his building who helped him with his amateur crimes.
Exactly, because he was an ex-cop. It was kind of ripping off Die Hard. But basically, he left the force instead of
shot a kid.
Yeah, he shot a kid, but instead of staying on the force and being timid, he actually leaves the force.
Yeah.
Really stealing from Die Hard. And also, Banya's a stand-up comic. Why is he suddenly an amateur detective?
I don't know. He likes Ovaltine and solving crimes.
But when we watched that, we were like, what's going on? Where's Kramer? And then you find out, no, this was a backdoor pilot. They wanted to make this a show, and they figured it's so backdoor pilots is when a sitcom actually does another pilot, a backdoor pilot for another show, but they put it in the episode run. It's one of the 26 episodes or so of that season because you don't have to actually spend any money. You're using
it's
the
just
Seinfeld
the budget from the existing
it's
show.
It's kind of brilliant.
Gilmore Girls even did it, actually.
Rather than raise of several $1 million and shoot this independent pilot that may or may not. And in the case of
Mr. Fish
Detective
Hands.
Banya and Mr. Fish Hands,
it didn't go very well.
Did not become shows. Or the Matt LeBlanc. Probably best for Matt LeBlanc that it didn't happen.
Probably for the best because he got Friends shortly thereafter.
Anyway, we're running late here.
We're running long.
We're still in the first scene.
Still in the first scenes. They get the fish that they need for the party that Marge is throwing that night. Why was she throwing that party again?
For Ned.
For Ned, right. Of course. So Flanders is having it's a loaves and fishes party.
Yeah.
But his stove was broken, so he had to do it at the Simpsons house, and Marge volunteered to buy the fish.
Is that why God shows up later? Is he like saying?
I think so.
Is he saying hello, Marge, because later Marge saves the day with the loaves and fishes? She's like, well, if we just pass this one fish around, and all right, I gotta admit, this was really funny when she goes, well, we'll just pass the loaves and fishes to everybody.
Yeah.
And when they just all get to Homer and he just eats them all, and then everybody ends up with nothing anyway.
Yeah, it was pretty.
That's kind of
that was kind of funny, actually.
Like, imagine if that actually happened like 2,000 years ago. Jesus Christ is there. There's not enough people with the food.
Yeah.
He passes the food and loaves and fishes.
Yep.
And if Homer was there, he eats it. There's no miracle. Nobody believes in Christ. There's no Christianity.
That's the end of.
There's probably no Renaissance, and we're all still in like a feudal society now. Like, it's kind of amazing if
this
Homer
podcast
could have derailed all of mankind.
I think that's an interesting follow-up episode that they might be able to do.
But just the visual, even Dan Castellaneta is like as he's eating the
fish
miracles. I think was the line.
Yeah, that was a good one. But anyway, she's throwing the party for Flanders.
So
they get back to the house.
Yeah, so they have the party. There are a few party jokes. Hibbert does some. Oh, I guess we got to talk about this.
We have to talk about this. Right, I know exactly what you're going to say.
So Minzy Magel's upstairs using the restroom.
Yep.
And there's Mo.
And there's Mo.
And it's just
And he's like, I got a little looking look that I got here, a little hole in the wall.
And I can't believe they actually show this. So I'm not surprised. I don't like it. Well, I'm not surprised that he's peeping and watching Lindsay Megal pee in the
Mo.
bathroom.
He's gross. He likes pee. We know this.
The fact that he's watching her pee, gross. But then when he turns and he goes, "You guys got to get a look at this," and they actually show
the camera physically moves into the peephole.
Well, no,
it was weird.
Well, it moves from the peephole into the bedroom, and it shows the bedroom's full of people. We actually get to see Mo's rape cult.
Yeah.
Like he actually has 30, I guess, acolytes.
Yeah.
And they're all lining up to watch Minzy. How long is Minzy Megal peeing that 30 people can take turns?
She had a lot of watermelon before she got to that party. It was weird, and they were all in robes, and it was kind of scary, actually.
It was literally...
Because the camera hung on each individual going up and looking and then leaving.
Yeah,
it was a long time.
It was like 65 seconds. Maybe I'll end the show with a clip.
We'll see. We'll try and find one.
But I mean, thankfully we don't actually see rape. It's not rape. I guess it's sexual assault. Peeping on somebody.
He alludes to the fact that maybe we'll drug her later.
Right,
but
besides
nothing
that,
was shown.
You have Mo and you have a cult. You have people. It's an actual Mo's rape cult.
It's going a little bit farther with Mo than I'm comfortable with.
I just like it when Mo's like, "Oh, I am so far from where I parked." They call that the stinger. They don't
use that no more.
That's the Mo I want.
When he's like, "I'm really enjoying seeing this lady make a pee-pee." That was a little too much for me.
I don't need that.
I didn't need that.
We don't see his erection, but I'm assuming he has one. I'm
assuming it was there.
And the idea of
Hank
that
Azaria's voice had that like erection inflection, and it was just really
the erection inflection.
People know that. That's a thing.
Some people on Reddit have noticed. Sometimes I'm talking and like, oh, that Jack's got a boner during that scene. I think isn't your Freet voice? Isn't that?
Hey everybody!
That's your erection inflection. That's your anytime you actually have an erection, you talk like Freet.
Could you imagine if any time I was aroused, I really did talk like Freet? My wife would be so disappointed.
I think she'd be disappointed if you just went boing, boing, boing. Even on regular voice.
I do that all the time, regularly. Oh, I just love making love. I'm here trying to find love in a hopeless place, like the Rihanna song.
My girlfriend's not crazy about my penis. Every once in a while I just take it out just to be like funny. I'm like, look.
Yeah.
And she's like, put that away. You would think if she was really in love with me, she'd be like, oh, it's my Jackie's pee-pee.
This is something everyone does, clearly. Like with your wife, you take out your penis and you just show them every once in a while.
Do you ever show her your a-hole?
Of course. All the time.
She gets so mad at me.
So mad.
I just like sometimes like I'm changing them in the shower, I just go, hey, and do a little spread cheeks and go, I don't want to see that. And like I agree. If she did that to me, I'd be totally turned off.
I don't know.
But it's funny because I'm a guy and I'm hairy.
Yeah. It's fun being a guy. You got a dick you can show people.
Do whatever we want. We have options. We can stand while we're peeing. We can sit. We can lay down.
We can do a handstand and pee.
I don't recommend it. You pee all over your own face.
I did it the one time. And it was not ideal, but you could do it. It could be done.
Anyway, so let's get to the plot here. So they throw this party for Ned, and Disco Stu's there.
Disco Stu is there, and he's, he says, I need fish for my boots, because he's got those platform boots that have the goldfish in them. Right. So he's like, hey, sexy mama, where can a guy like Stu go to get a pair of fishes? Yeah. And Marge thinks that he's talking about breasts.
Cool, yeah, because
that's what
fish is a slang for breasts.
Yeah, in Springfield it is.
It's not as crass as excuse me for a second, but titties.
Titties.
I don't like
jugs.
I don't like saying
whoppers.
titties, but fish is not as crass, but it's not polite to say. You don't.
Right.
I never told my mom like, "Hey, nice fishies."
Well, Marge is a little bit sheltered. We always say she doesn't get out that much. She's got this kind of older mentality. No. So Disco Stu being like, "Hey, where can I get a pair of fishies?"
And then she slaps him.
She slaps him, and that kind of he falls onto Apu.
Yeah. And the two of them look at each other, and they never met before. And Disco Stu goes, "Who are you?" And Apu's like, "Who am I? I literally have the quickie mart. I've been here forever.
Right.
I've done this. I have the kids. I have the TV.
Yep.
I was on the TV channel because of my kids." He's like, "Who are you?" And Disco Stu's like, "Everybody knows who I am." And then he goes, "Right." And all of all the Springfield regulars, Hibbert's there, Lovejoy, they all look and they go, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And then Disco Stu is really depressed because it's funny because he's been around since what, season 7?
Since season 7.
But he's never really interacted. He's always like he's
always a background
away.
guy.
Like they cut to him and he doesn't really interact with anybody. funny. So I
No.
love that they actually play that out logically, and nobody knows. Like, why are you here?
It was smart. Like, and then Homer says to Marge, "Did you invite him?" And Marge is like, "No, I thought you invited him." And it just turns out he just walked in.
So then he kind of awkwardly walks out. It's like it goes on for an extra beat.
Yeah.
Extra long beat.
Well, because you have Homer being like,
oh my god, that gibberish
Unbelievable.
scene.
I couldn't believe it.
He's like, let me put on this is my favorite song, and he puts on the vinyl.
He puts on na 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 because Disco Stu's leaving. Na 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 na. Hey hey.
But
goodbye. And Homer just sings it over and over. Yeah, it was awful.
So anyway, Disco Stu leaves, and then we never go back to the party. The party's done.
Party's done.
We follow now.
We
the
follow
episode's
Stu.
following Stu, and
Yeah.
so it's like he's walking down the street, sad music.
Yeah.
And he goes home, and he lives in a recording studio.
Yeah, I thought that was he sleeps on the mixing
Like
board.
I thought he liked disco. I didn't think he actually had anything to do with the production of disco.
I kind of felt like this episode was making an argument that Disco Stu is the literal personification of disco music.
Yeah, that's weird.
Like he had to go back to his studio for the night. It was like Dracula returning to his coffin. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, I feel like the writers don't know what to do with Disco Stu.
That was very apparent here.
Look, show's been on forever. I get that, and Disco Stu's been around forever. I get that you would want to just like, hey, we've done a million fucking Homer gets this new job.
Right.
Let's try a Disco Stu episode.
Yeah.
That's fine. But
Good idea.
you need-
Execution not so good.
Like
mean-
like the auto show.
Like the auto show, sure.
Who would have thought? And this is like season
three, that is.
So
Yeah.
why in season 3 do you think anybody would go? Let's do an episode about Otto. That
Yeah.
sounds like a terrible idea.
It does.
It's a great episode.
Great episode. You got Spinal
Actually,
Tap in there.
I gotta talk about Spinal Tap. So
Yeah.
I just rewatched Spinal Tap. It's on Netflix.
Okay, you're talking about This is Spinal
This
Tap.
is Spinal
the
Tap,
movie.
the rockumentary, if
The
you will.
rocking mockumentary. Yes.
So I have always loved Spinal Tap. I think it was a very funny movie.
Agreed.
I haven't watched it in a few years. Watching it this time, something clicked, and I was just like, not only do I love this movie, this is one of the greatest movies of all. It's such a flawless movie.
It's pretty fucking great.
So we watch it, hypothetically, and I was like, I want to watch the Spinal Tap scene on Simpsons now. So
Yeah.
I look it up on YouTube.
it up.
I didn't realize, first of all, how long it is.
they're like in the entire first act.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's several beats,
Yeah.
and
They get a few scenes.
and I know the Spinal Tap scene well, but I guess I've never thought about it.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is it's basically a sequel to the movie.
Yeah.
It's like it's an extra scene that could have been in the movie where it's like, so if you don't know Spinal Tap, it's a fake band through these 3 British guys, heavy metal band.
Right.
And
Harry Shearer is one of them.
Harry Shearer's one of
Christopher
them.
Guest and Michael McKean. So they're both guest
and they're
stars
all
in that
voicing
episode.
themselves.
Yeah.
And in this universe, Spinal Tap is a real band, so it's actually in the same universe as the movie.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there are always mishaps. Things always go wrong for them, and
Yep.
they just can't get a break. And the gags that happen, first of all, are hilarious. So these like spotlights, these gloomy spotlights open up on Michael McKee and Christopher Guest, but it misses Harry Shearer, just like his nose is in frame.
Yeah,
and
right,
he has to
right.
step in frame.
Yep, I love that. Love that bit.
There's puddles. They're like, yeah, this is a hockey rink, and there's lasers like the
Trying
lasers.
to do a rock concert, not the bleeding splish splash show.
So that's my favorite line. I didn't realize how good the line that is
Yeah.
because he's basically trying to come up with something funny. It's hard to improvise.
It's hard. I mean, like the whole movie, This is Spinal Tap. That's all improv.
Oh yeah, they
it's
have
amazing.
no script. They're just
It's tough
talking
to do.
and hoping people enjoy it, and
Yes.
it's very scary.
It's very scary.
You don't
'cause
know
you
if
just put it
everybody's
out
just
there.
gonna go on the Spinal Tap Reddit and be like, "Well, that was a waste
Well,
of
that was a
everybody's
huge waste
time."
of my time. I didn't understand it.
But so yeah, and the Splish Splash show is my favorite line. The more famous line is probably when the laser hits him in the eyes. My vision. But
Christopher Guest is so good.
So brilliant. So brilliant.
So good.
So anyway, I guess I never realized just how perfect that scene is. But what really blew my mind was I never thought about it.
Yeah.
It really is a sequel to a movie. They're taking this movie. It has nothing to do with The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Bart's barely in it. There's another thing I want to get to too about this.
Okay.
But basically they're just giving the reins to the Simpsons. The Simpsons are just like, hey, here's Spinal Tap. You have 5 minutes of our show. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
When does that ever happen before? Like, can you
Well-
imagine if there was like a Ghostbusters scene, like where Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis have like a scene
that would have been amazing.
where Bart's in it for a split second, but there's like 3 minutes of them finding ghosts in a very Ghostbustery Ivan Reitman way.
Sure.
Like that would be crazy.
That would be amazing.
Has it ever happened? Besides Spinal Tap?
I think it has, as far as you have Ricky Gervais coming on and writing his own episode, Seth
Right, but
Rogen
it's not-
writing his own episode.
Yeah, but they're not direct sequels to a pre-existing property.
Okay, yeah.
It's not David Brent, and it doesn't happen in the exact same.
Yeah,
Besides
that's
crossovers
true.
like Futurama, Family Guy,
Right, The Critic, X-Files.
I'm talking about like this is pretty much one of the greatest movies of all time gets an extra 5-minute scene
within the Simpsons
within the
episode.
context of one of the greatest TV shows of all time.
Yeah, I would say that's probably completely
I guess
unique.
like Ghostbusters might be the best example. Could you imagine if there was just a scene with the three of them back together? Bill Murray, throw in Winston too. I don't want
Sure.
to be. That's not a racist thing. He's just
What's
not
wrong
as
with
prominent.
Winston?
He's just not as prominent a character.
I
It's
like
not
Winston.
racist. I'm not racist.
They fleshed him out really well in the comics, which are good. You should read the
and
IDW.
in the second movie.
And in the second movie, you're right. But anyway.
So the other thing I also want to mention, back to Homer's gibberish.
Yes.
So I was watching the Spinal Tap scene, and the riot starts, and it's really well done. God, the classic Simpsons is just so much better.
Yeah, it really is.
There's a riot, and Homer's completely oblivious. He's waiting for Bart in the parking lot. He's just hanging out in the car, and he's playing Little Spanish
was a
Flea.
little Spanish flea.
And he's singing, and this riot's happening in the background. I was like,
Yeah.
that is the classic era version of gibberish, of Homer's doing gibberish. And it's, or him singing.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it works in context. He's oblivious of this riot. It's funny visually. The riot's happening behind him, and he's completely oblivious.
yeah.
But it's a catchy melody. His voice isn't irritating. He's actually just
Dan
singing
Castellaneta is a pretty good singer,
Right,
actually.
but I feel like if this was a season 41 and he's singing Little Spanish Flea, not even gibberish,
Yeah.
it would be like yeah,
Agreed. Totally agreed.
So like it's so funny how the things we're complaining about, people could be like, "Oh, you're nitpicking. You're just saying you don't like it because it's new." It's subtle.
There are demonstrable differences.
But there's it's like all it takes is something just like for a little gust of wind to blow
All
something
it
from
needs was a
great.
little push.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it could be so good and to so bad, and so I think that's why we're nitpicking. It's not that we're going, "Oh, look at this one little mistake." It's that this is something that was amazing at one point and now is not because of this one little thing.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Agreed. I agree.
I just looked out there and there's puddles of water all over the freaking stage.
Yeah, well, look, I don't want to lie to you boys. 6 days a week, the place is a hockey rink.
Yeah, well, this is a rock concert, not the bleeding splish splash show.
But then
so
we're with Disco Stu in the recording studio
and then
home.
his roommate shows up, and it's Anthony Edwards.
And it's Anthony
but
Edwards.
It's Anthony Edwards as himself.
Right.
Classic post-classic move where you can't just come up with a nice original character for.
Yeah.
I like Anthony Edwards. I love Revenge
I
of the
love
Nerds, but
Anthony
I was a
Edwards.
big ER fan.
Yeah.
It's funny to think that he was like the heartthrob over George Clooney. Like he was the star.
Sure. Yeah. Now the Cloonsters killing
I
it.
think they killed him in
I
ER.
think he probably did die.
Die of cancer or
I
something.
never really watched ER, but yeah, it's interesting. He's playing himself, actor Anthony Edwards.
Shoe honked in.
Pop,
Honk, honk, honk.
And the reasoning that he and Disco Stu are friends doesn't really make a lot of sense. They used to party a lot back in the day during the heydays of disco. Doesn't make sense.
I know continuity and the Simpsons and
Yeah.
all that, but so Disco Stu at oldest, maybe he's a good-looking 50.
Sure.
So back in the day when he was in college would be what 30 years ago, right?
Yeah. So
that would be 1984.
We're talking
1987.
way past the end of disco.
Yeah. So he? I kind of maybe I like that.
Maybe, yeah.
The
Maybe-
fact that he loves disco after disco had already come and gone.
You know what? I like that.
like
I like
disco.
that a little bit. Yeah.
I like disco a
I like
lot.
some disco songs. I like Disco Duck.
But that is weird that maybe is that why when they cut to that stupid they do the PAL port of Studio 54. You can't just call it Studio 54. They had to
No.
make it Studio 55.
Yeah.
Was that necessary? Or is that supposed to be the joke? Look, we changed the number. It's one better than Studio 54. In Harvard, they teach you that if you add one to something, it's funny.
It immediately makes it better.
It added 10 to my paycheck, if you know what I mean.
Very good.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Edwards is a little bit wasted because he comes in and he says, "Hi, Disco Stu, I'm your roommate, Anthony Edwards."
Yeah, basically, yeah. And I
And
feel bad for
what is
Anthony
that?
Edwards because, look, as much as we knocked the show, if I got to be on The Simpsons as a guest
Yeah.
star, even if it was a terrible episode, it would just be such an amazing moment for
course.
me. And I'm sure Anthony Edwards, he hasn't really been doing, I don't know what the hell he's been doing lately.
Yeah.
That's got to be crazy. Be like, me on The Simpsons? Oh, yeah, amazing. And then they give him nothing to do. They give literally, it's a waste of Edwards.
Right. I mean, Disco Stu just says, "Nobody knows who I am in town anymore, man." And Anthony Edwards is just like, "Nobody knows who I am anymore. I was on ER and that went off the air over a decade ago."
I thought that was really mean. They really get he's like,
To make him say that himself.
Like they gave him these lines and then made it like, he's like, He's like, you think that's bad? I lost my hair in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Look, as somebody who's been losing his hair since early 20s, if you made me come out and say that,
how dare you?
I'd be pretty depressed about it.
Yeah, and then that was kind of it for Anthony Edwards. I mean, he shows...
like Isma said, he's the minor guest star compared to Anthony Anderson.
Well, Anthony, we'll get to him in a second.
We'll get into that Blackish parody.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
All right, so Disco Stu, we see him go to sleep. He sleeps on the mixing board in the studio. And when he wakes up the next morning...
I did like where he was like, he when he starts waking up, his hand hits the risers.
And the sun rises as he's hitting the risers. That was amazing. Yeah. That was a good piece of visual comedy.
If you're going to pop in like God's hand coming out of nowhere, something like, God's hand makes the sun. I don't know. So there's something there.
There's something there. It could have been better. But he wakes up the next morning and he decides not to put on his Disco Stu outfit for the first time ever we've seen.
So he opens up the closet. It's classic Flintstones. He's got all he has is a bunch of
all Disco Stu
same
outfits,
which I guess all the Simpsons do.
Right. But he decides
he puts on that suit.
Yeah, he puts on a normal non-disco suit.
Yeah, and I like that. It's funny because for we started calling him in our notes. We're like, I guess he's non-Disco Stu now. And then the next scene, they go, hey, it's non-Disco Stu.
Right.
I was like, wait, that's what you're going to call him?
That's what we're going to call him, non-Disco Stu.
Just call him Stu. That's the natural.
It was kind of weird. Like, they wouldn't just call him Stu.
And then they made nicknames out of it. At one point, Barney was like, hey, NDS. And then that became Nuds. And they're like, hey, Nuds.
Yeah.
And then there was that really weird line where Otto was like, hey, Nuds, what's your nards?
That was weird.
Like, if you just called him Stu, none of this would have, I don't know.
You would have avoided this whole strange plot
in a Harvard,
twist.
We think it's really funny to make nod sounds like nudes.
NDS sounds like Nats.
More like N needs better writing.
Needs more donut.
So Needs More Donut is a weird inside joke between me, Dan, and like two other people related to the character of Bellick on Prison Break, and we'll have zero.
It means nothing to anyone else.
It's not even, makes us laugh.
It's not even worth explaining.
Needs more donut. I don't even remember the origin.
I don't remember it either.
I remember we were watching Prison Break, and I said it and it was funny, but I don't know why. It doesn't even make sense. Needs more donut. The syntax doesn't make sense.
No, it needs more donut. All right.
Did we make a techno song out of that at one point?
Did we?
It was like, needs more donut. Didn't we do that one night?
That I don't remember, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. All right. So
where were we?
So yeah, Disco Stu.
Act break, Act 2.
From now on, I will no longer be Disco
dun,
Stu.
Dun, dun. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's walking around. He doesn't even have his shades on anymore. He keeps the afro because we got to recognize him as Stu.
Yeah.
But he's walking around with the
suit. Did they use his model for anybody else? I don't have the visual in front of me, but would it be funny if you just took the fro off and suddenly he looks just like exactly like Sea Captain?
He's the same
like you add a
character.
beard and take the fro off and Sea Captain. But I doubt it.
I don't think so. But Disco Stu, or non-Disco Stu rather, walking down the street, and he comes across Apu, and Apu says, I remember you from last night. You're the gentleman who landed on me. And Stu says, no, I'm a totally different man. They call me non-Disco Stu now.
Yeah,
and Apu's just like...
But you're still the same physically, the person who physically fell on me.
Right.
Whether you're changing your identity or not. You're not saying this in so many words.
Yeah. I didn't need to be there because it literally added nothing. Yeah. Because then Stu just keeps walking away and Apu just stays there.
I thought this was going to be about Apu.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the title, Apu Fish, but this is it.
I think that's the last time we see Apu.
Yeah, that's the end of him.
But they have a whole Manjula scene. And it's not Jan Hook. Rest in peace, Jan Hook.
Hook's passed.
I forget Ray Pamela Hay. I forget who does it. But just to have Apu do this, you could have swapped Apu for Manjula. It would have been the exact same scene, and it would have made sense because Apu has for lack of a better word, a history with Disco Stu now.
Right. It's weird that they would have an entire scene with Stu and Manjula.
Should we just knock out the B plot?
Let's knock out the B plot.
The Manjula Bart B plot that Disco Stu just comes across.
Good pairing of characters that we've never seen before.
I've seen some good BMs before, but not
Bart Manjula. Was real good. Okay, so Bart sees Manjula at the Quickie Mart, right?
And this has Disco Stu walks by.
Disco Stu walks by and it pans over to Bart in the Quickie Mart. Right after he leaves Apu.
It reminded me of, it was a weird pan. It reminded me of, did you ever watch Ghostbusters on VHS?
Yeah, I did. You talking about the pan and scan version?
The pan and scan, which I always thought was part of the cinematography.
Yeah, me too.
Until I saw the DVD 20 years later.
Same
and
exact
I actually liked the pan and scan. I thought it was like a cool camera move.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically, if you don't know, Ghostbusters in widescreen. For VHS, they fucked up the aspect ratio. So you literally see them like it's a shot of like Bill Murray, and then it pans over to Harold Ramis.
Right.
But it's a weird pan. It's not like you usually when you see the camera.
It looks
move.
artificial.
Yeah, exactly. I guess because it is. They're zooming in on the image.
It was done in the editing bay.
I like that look, and I liked it here. That's what this reminded me of.
That did remind me of that, yeah. So we pan over to Bart, and Manjula is manning the Quickie Mart cash register while Apu is outside having his little moment with Disco Stu. And Bart asks her a question. He says, where are the kids?
Right. Where her kids.
Right. And she says, I don't know where my kids are.
She's freaking out. She's
freaking out.
She's like, I don't know. I just had them. You would think, hey, kids.
Yeah, it's hard to lose.
So Bart goes, I'll help you. I was like, what? Why is
Bit
Bart
out of character? Yeah.
Like, there's something he's gaining out of it? Oh, I guess at the end of when he goes, he puts his hand out for a tip, like Rob Schneider in Home Alone 2.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's.
And she gives him a baby, which was pretty funny.
It's
but
like
not,
have a baby. It's like that's a funny joke, but that's kind of breaking The Simpsons. It's like
what's Bart going to do
really
with the baby?
Give up one of your
I
kids?
don't believe it.
I'm assuming he just gives it back off screen, but it was jarring. But so he gets the tip, and that's the button to the B plot. But was he? I don't think that's why he agreed to do it. He wasn't in the back of his mind going, "Oh, I'm going to get a tip later."
You know what it was? I think it might have been when he and Lisa were arguing about homework in the car earlier.
Yeah.
Lisa says to him, "You never finish anything, Bart."
That's why that scene's
there. So that's
there.
why this scene is here, because he finds a woman in need. And he's going to help her, and he stays to the end, and then he gets a little tip at the end.
Now it's obvious. Now that you said, I really didn't like that beginning because I was like, why is this here? Why?
It felt shoehorned in.
Honk, honk, honk. And now wow, that's actually really good foreshadowing.
Yeah.
It's a
So
shame
that
it's
was
wasted
good.
on a completely useless B-plot.
Totally. Because they end up being like, where are my kids? Okay, I'll help you find your kids. And then Bart and Manjula, they walk outside, and they look in the dumpster, and...
Then there's a Mo is in there.
Mo is in there with the rape cult.
With all 30 of them are
right.
We're having a meeting.
Yeah, and he's like, get out of here. And then we find out much later on that the rape cult kidnapped the children for their sacrifice. And it got real dark real quick.
And I'm assuming this is more part of the cult aspect of the cult, and hopefully not the rape part. Like, I don't think they were.
I don't
not
think they were going to rape the
insinuating
children.
No, they were just going to sacrifice.
Well, because there was
them.
that scene where I forget who. I think it might have been Superintendent Chalmers, who was in the rape cult with Mo.
Yeah.
Says we're specifically not going to rape these children.
I guess,
which was comforting to me as a viewer.
I'm guessing like the Fox execs were like, you got to put this line in here.
Yeah.
But basically, they needed their children's hair because they put it in some kind of like disgusting like drink that they were going to drink, and it was going to give them.
It was going to give them love powers.
It was going to give them erection inflections.
It was there you go. That's exactly what it was.
They were all going to talk like Freet.
Oh man!
But they didn't because
the hair of Indian children will turn you into Freet. That's canon.
I hope if worst episode ever, a Simpsons podcast.
Yeah.
Was actually a blockbuster New Line cinema trilogy.
Sure.
I would hope that part 3 would have a cold opening of a Freet prequel where it's like, who's this young mop-haired man?
Yeah.
And then you see he accidentally ingests the hair of an Indian child.
Yeah, that's
and
just how it happens.
Freet.
That's how it goes.
And then the powerful score of worst episode of a Simpsons podcast
Freet
plays.
rising from the ashes. Freet is back.
So weird.
It's a little strange, I must admit, but that's the way it goes here in worst episode ever.
I'm not going to contribute because I want the Freet bit to end as early as possible.
Yeah, but then Bart and Manjula, they find the kids. Mo had hid them in the bar in the secret room with the whales that he had from the X-Files episode.
And they're like, well, how are we going to? We got to get out of here. How are we going to fit all of them? And then they Burnsify it. Basically, Mr. Burns shows up with like a steampunky. Again, he's old. They Burnsify it. He's old, and he comes up with like a steampunky limo.
He comes in and he's like, "You there? Get in the hydrolyzer." And it's like this, steampunk limo.
Yeah, and it's because he wants to sell the cult his artificial Indian hair potion.
Which was all off camera. That happened off screen. Apparently Mr. Burns has been working on this for a while.
It's off camera, but it's not. It's they drive off camera and the frame just stays on the back of Mo's bar.
Right.
And then you just hear Mr. Burns have their conversation with everybody.
Yeah.
Like they have a full
off screen.
Well, the frame is still just on the back of Mo's. It was really like, why not just do
Just
close-ups
pan.
of
Yeah.
Burns, and
A 1-2 shot even.
It makes no sense for the camera to just stay. It's almost like the animation. I don't know how animation works. The animation camera broke. It couldn't. It was
They broke
stuck
the
on
animation camera.
It was just
so
stuck. Or maybe it's like the Simpsons is like Hanna-Barbera now, where they're just
they were
staying on the
saving
same
money.
frame.
Yeah, they want to just stay on the same frame and advance the plot a little bit
If
with
you're
a
gonna
minute
do
of
that,
dialogue.
then don't do a non-disco Stu because you have to come up with a whole new.
It was a whole new
Do you
character
think
model.
non-disco Stu? Do they still do Simpsons action figures?
I don't
waves or
know.
whatever
I
they're
think
called?
I think they do. I think they've been doing it for guest stars for a while. They don't talk anymore, but it's
Why
the
not?
same style.
They don't talk anymore.
I don't know. They don't talk because they don't do the
We
play
don't talk
sets
anymore.
but they do like the static, the guest stars. Like Tom Hanks had one. Yao Ming
Really,
had one.
Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
For that one line in the Simpsons movie?
If you see me and my family in public, please leave us alone.
It's a great line.
It's a great
Please
line.
Let me be. But yeah, they should do a non-disco Stu action figure.
I would buy one.
I know you would.
Hey now,
You love the
I
Simpsons.
love the Simpies. This episode's getting away from us.
else
Is there anything else to say about the Bart Manjula plot? I mean, they get the kids back. Burns
they end off.
is
Yeah,
there.
I don't need it. Well, let's get back to the plot.
Let's get back to Disco Stew.
So here's where not quintessential, typical Homer puts himself
they
into
have
the.
to put Homer into everything.
He
Homer
has-
and Disco Stew have never met before.
He has nothing to do with this plot.
Yeah.
And if you're going to put him in, have him start at the party when they're actually interacting organically.
Yeah.
Why do you have to have Homer in every fucking plot?
Okay, so you have Anthony Anderson come in, right? And he's the big special guest star playing off of his Blackish character's role.
Yes, in a way, it's like it's a little racist. It was
little
a little
bit.
It was a little.
Well, because he comes in and he says, "I'm the king of the '70s," and that's his gimmick. He
Right.
wears a little crown
Right.
with disco balls on it, and he says, "No one's more
He
'70s
says-
than I
he
am."
said- what was it? He says, "I'm Motown Mark."
Motown Mark, that was it.
Motown Marcus.
That was it, Marcus.
Yeah.
Motown Marcus. He comes into town, strutting his stuff. Casey and the Sunshine Band
Now-
is playing in a little montage.
I kind of like, so I do like, this is where it becomes like high noon, basically.
Right.
And I do like the idea that the only thing to bring non-disco Stu out of his funk is like a rival disco Stu.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is what you should be.
Yeah.
Basically, Springfield never needed disco Stu before. He served no purpose besides
Right.
a really great
Well,
stud joke.
Until you bring in this other
Exactly.
guy, this counterpoint to
And
Disco
it's like,
Stew.
this is actually good writings because if you had this guy come in
Yeah.
one day earlier, it would have been like, well, I'm Disco Stu. I'm your
I'm
man.
kind of the disco guy in town.
I'll take this guy on for you guys.
Yeah.
But there's no arc then. It's
Right.
just A to B.
Now
So
he's hung up his holster. It's high noon,
He's
like you
at
said.
his lowest.
Yeah.
And now he rises from the ashes like a
Like a
disco phoenix.
beautiful
By the way,
phoenix.
Disco Phoenix would be an amazing disco song.
Hi, Disco Phoenix.
Bow, 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 bow,
Disco
bow, bow,
Phoenix.
bow, 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 bow. Bow, 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 bow,
Disco
bow.
Phoenix.
Bow, 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 bow. It's Jean
Disco
Grey.
Phoenix. Dazzler.
Jean Grey. Not the mythical bird we're talking about. The
Jean Grey.
Phoenix.
That's a good song. I like they played that in the background too.
Yeah, well, no, they didn't because that would have been great if they did. We just came up with that.
I know. I
but-
wish that they had. I mean, we just made that up on the
No,
spot.
they-
Believe it or
yeah,
not.
What did they play? They played Disco
Well, they
Inferno.
played Casey and the Sunshine
Right,
Band,
yeah,
and they
yeah,
had Disco
right,
Inferno
right,
later.
Right.
But yeah,
they
so
do the 6-second montage when he's training for the fight with. This is a little later on.
Yeah.
But so look again. I love disco, and what was that Thelma Houston song? Baby,
my heart is full of
Yeah.
love, and I can start out.
Yeah, and that's
that
a great
one.
song, but
Yeah.
it lasts for like 6 seconds, and it's not even like a training montage. You see him like he's like he lifts weights, which he's not
Yeah.
physically fighting him. They're having
Right.
a disco.
They were
off.
having a disco off.
So
Yeah.
I guess you just couldn't. You couldn't come up with like a. Like you don't have to do a Rocky training montage. Come up with a disco montage.
They really rely on these training montages
think
a
of it,
lot,
take-
especially with the songs.
In improv, they call it the game. What's the game of the game? Is they're having a disco off. So
Right.
then you extrapolate. What would a training how do you train for a disco off? You don't
Right.
lift weights.
Well, I mean, they were disco balls instead of barbells, which that was kind of something. But I agree
Yes.
with you.
But why does he need to be
He
physically
doesn't
stronger?
need to be physically stronger. I don't know. But Motown Marcus, he comes into town and everyone loves him, and suddenly everyone's super into disco.
Right.
And Disco Stu's like, you all waited until I was non-disco Stu.
Right. But then of course he had to have nefarious reasons because
Right.
he's black and the writers are racist.
No, well, I don't want to draw that much into it.
Is that libel?
Yeah,
You're
I
the
don't
law.
know. It might be.
If I say that the writer of
it
this
would be
episode
slander.
is a racist,
Libel would be.
if I say the writer of this episode hates all races, Could he sue me or she?
Potentially, yeah.
We should talk about the guest writer. Really
We should talk
quickly.
about the guest writer real quick.
Because you looked it up. I was shocked to find it out. It was actually...
it was Christopher Lambert. That's so weird. It was the Highlander himself.
Yeah, I get Seth Rogen. He was very popular at the time. He's still popular, but he was at his zenith. What's his face? David Brent.
Ricky Gervais.
Ricky Gervais. He's considered The Office was a big moment in comedy.
Right, and these are all comedians, comedy producers. Christopher Lambert is an action star.
Is he French or American?
I believe he's French.
Okay.
He was in Fortress. And that's kind of it. He's just
French,
a big fan.
I was about to say, I'm surprised he's so racist, but if he's French, it kind of makes sense.
It sort of makes sense.
It kind of makes sense. They don't like
no
the
offense
minorities.
to the Frenchies.
They don't like minorities.
France is a great place, I'm sure.
Nobody ever says France.
No one ever says Italy.
Nobody ever says Italy. Yeah, I said the line wrong.
Yeah, but anyway.
I said the loud part low and the low part high.
So Christopher Lambert, if you want to sue us, that's fine.
You fucking racist.
You racist piece of crap.
You piece of shit.
We really liked you in Mortal Kombat,
Was he rated in Mortal Kombat 2?
He was. Well, not in Mortal Kombat 2. He was rated in Mortal Kombat 1.
Yeah, as I was saying,
he didn't
was
come
it
back
recast
for.
in Mortal Kombat 2?
I think everyone except Robin Shou was recast for Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Yeah, Nick Noga, a friend of the show, his cousin was Johnny Cage.
Was he really?
Yeah, in Mortal Kombat 2.
That's awesome. He got killed immediately in the movie.
Spoilers.
Spoilers for Mortal Kombat Annihilation, a movie no one should watch.
But anyway, so he's got these nefarious reasons. He's actually setting up all this whole disco chain. It's like the producers, I guess.
It's a lot like the producers, yeah. Where
somehow he loses.
Well, it was a little bit like Marge vs. the Monorail, where he wanted everyone to invest. He drummed up interest in the 70s so that everyone would invest in his disco, but then he was never going to build the disco properly. He was just going to skip town with the money.
Right, yeah. I guess it's exactly like Music Man.
Pretty much exactly like the Music Man.
I guess
it's almost like they've run out of ideas.
No, this is a completely original idea about Disco Stu, Dan.
Yeah, about Mickey Mouse and Ronald Muck.
So Homer goes, Disco Stu, you're Disco Stu. You're the, if anybody can stop him, it's you.
Right, because Homer is now the voice of Springfield, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Not
he's
the mayor, not the
Mayor
police.
Quimby.
Although,
You brought up the police. The Wiggum Lou Corner in this episode. Wiggum Lou Corner!
Well, actually, it should be a disco version. Bow, 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 bow.
Wiggum Lou Corner is here. Yeah, I think. So Wiggum and Lou. It was another situation where we're seeing Disco Stu or non-Disco Stu and Homer walking, and then it just pans over to Wiggum and Lou, and Wiggum is like, "There goes the saddest guy I've ever seen in Springfield." And then Lou is like, "What about me? I'm sad all the time."
I'm sad all the time, Chief. Didn't you get my Facebook suicide notification?
Yeah.
Which they're referencing the fact that if you post, like, Facebook has an AI algorithm. If your statuses seem depressed or suicidal, Facebook will alert your friends and be like, "Hey, keep an eye on this guy."
Yeah.
It doesn't really belong in the Simpsons.
And then Wiggum was just like, "I don't care for social media," and just takes a sip of his little
LinkedIn.
drink there.
What is LinkedIn for?
Yeah.
Who wants to? Who actually does that anymore? Wouldn't you just use job resumes? It's like, where's the Seinfeld music for the stand-up humor? And then
Lou just kind of walks off looking sad.
And then Eddie
presumably
goes,
kill himself.
Yeah, Eddie's like, "I think we really should do something about him, Chief." And he goes, "Nobody cares about you, Eddie."
Yeah, it was not great.
Oops. My big old dick just hit the mic stand.
Do you think Lou's situation in this episode has anything to do with the gays that raised him?
That
was alluded to.
The gays that birthed Lou
did
show. I guess they're there in spirit, his parents, because he does say the joke about him being depressed is like, "Well, my parents never hugged me as a child." Whatever stupid line he said.
Yeah.
I guess
I think I might be tying into that episode.
You're right. I guess it is. But I thought you were going to say is, do you think? Look, we've had a million Wiggum Lou corners, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But do you think they spend a little extra more time on this than usual because of the race thing? Again, Christopher Lambert.
Maybe.
Hates black people.
I think Al Jean probably added this in because a lot of times if they have a guest writer, I think he punches up the scripts.
All right, so you don't think Lou being black has anything to do with like the weird Anthony Anderson stuff?
I think that that the showrunners were probably like, we got to balance out Christopher Lambert's really weird script.
By the way.
That for some reason we agreed to do.
We should talk about this now, just real quick.
All right, let's do it.
I didn't like the writing. I didn't like Marcus. But Anthony Anderson did a good job with what he had.
He's
a great voice actor.
Yeah, he is.
He's a great dramatic actor. You know what he's really good in? He's like fucking menacing.
The Departed.
The villain. Oh, yeah, he is in that. He's the bad guy for season 5, I think, or maybe season 4 of The Shield.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
He's so goddamn evil and menacing. Oh, he's such a good dramatic actor.
I don't watch Blackish. I probably should.
I hear
I've
it's
heard
very
such
good,
good
yeah.
things. But I really like Anthony Anderson,
Yeah,
actually.
me
He's
too.
funny, and yeah, you're right. When I've seen him in dramatic roles, he's always
he
very
in
good.
one of the Transformers movies?
He might be.
Anyway.
Are you thinking of Shia LaBeouf? They look a lot alike.
I get them confused.
They're very
all
similar,
the time.
yeah.
Anthony Anderson always growing big shaggy beards and doing weird experimental
"I am not famous."
performance art.
Oh, boy.
I mean, if you got that paper bag over your head, I don't know who could be.
It
It could be Meryl
anybody.
Streep.
It could be anyone.
It could be Miss Emily Blunt.
Yeah, it could be. To be blunt with you, it's not Emily. Can we talk about Lisa real quick in this episode? Because Lisa is
Can we?
barely
I
in
don't
this
was going to say
episode.
how we're going to talk about her.
She's in the very first scene when
Right.
she's fighting with Bart.
The fish and the gobble gobble gobble.
Right. She hated Mr. Fish Hands. But then at the end,
She should have released the lobsters, and then there's like an army of lobsters that are free, like
that are Freet.
they're free, and they pour out of the supermarket. Shopping cart goes down.
Yeah, and they attack Motown Marcus.
Yeah, that's how it should have ended.
That's how it should have ended. Instead, what we get is that really, really elaborate thing with Homer goes to the nuclear plant, and then all the plant workers come out, and Motown Marcus. Oh my God!
Oh, is that why one of them goes "Viva la Resistance"? Because Christopher Lambert wrote this.
You know what? I think that
'Cause
probably
it
makes a lot of
doesn't really
sense
belong.
because he's French, I think.
And then there was that weird monologue. So when Homer gives the big speech, by the way, Disco Stu should be giving the speech.
Yeah, Homer gives the big like Braveheart speech
Yeah,
at the end,
and he says, look. Nobody blames the French for the Vichy government.
Right.
You know, Hitler had them by the, and he said us. He said Hitler
did say
had
us.
us by the throat. What were we supposed
did
to
what
do?
we had to do.
We did what we had to do, and we folded for the sakes of our liberté, fraternité,
Egalite.
And I was like, what is going on?
It
with
was
this?
strange. You know, I like in the classic episodes when the Simpsons would work in these kind of historical references, and you kind of learned a little bit. Like, I only know who Pablo Neruda
Right,
is
right.
because of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
This was a little bit on the nose.
It's weird that
It
Homer
felt a lot like Christopher Lambert was just politicizing through Homer.
I don't know why any episode needs to have Homer defending Vichy France.
It doesn't make a lot of sense if you think about it for more than a moment.
Even if there was, is there a French character?
Not really. I mean,
It's funny. There's not a lot of ethnic stereotypes.
you have from
got
season
the-
one the
yeah,
guys
Jacques.
who made. Well, no, not even Jacques.
Oh, yeah,
I was
the
thinking when
actual
Bart
guys
went to
from
France. Yeah,
Anyway, even if one of them was defending Vichy France,
it's a little
it
strange.
doesn't really fit in this Disco Stew
It
episode.
didn't. Where two disco titans are
But
squaring
anyway,
off.
yeah. So there's this like, is this an overt parody, or is it just look similar because there's not really a way to make this act the scene out without it looking like it? But was this an overt
Yeah.
parody of the Dark Knight Rises climax where the whole city is like the pro
I think
disco
it was, yeah.
people that are been convinced by Marcus.
Yeah.
Motown Marcus, they are storming the plant workers led by Disco Stu.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, because it also looks like the RoboCop 3 scene with the freaks versus the cows. I guess anytime you have two armies of
opposing-
regular civilians
yeah.
coming, and then there was that third one of the Moe's rape cult comes back, and they storm from the
Right.
from the third street.
And then it was like this whole Lord of the Rings, like
Exactly,
Battle of
yeah,
Helm's Deep
yeah,
type
yeah,
thing.
Exactly, until Disco Stu shows up like Gandalf, and they all look just when it looks
Yeah.
like they're about to lose, he shows up, and he's back in Disco
He's
Stu
back in
form,
his Disco Stu
and,
outfit,
and
Disco Inferno starts
yeah,
playing.
he does that. What do you go? Where your finger goes up.
He's doing the, like the John Travolta.
Yeah, yeah.
We're doing it in the studio. You guys can't see us. It's the Saturday Night Fever.
Where
Like
he
you're
puts, he
pointing
points
in
his
different
finger
directions.
to the sky.
Yeah.
Which again, this is where God should have pointed back. This makes it's like
Yes.
the show had all the right elements, just in the wrong places.
Yeah, it was a little.
But yeah, that was very
jumbled.
Two Towers, and then the disco. Bow, row, row, row. It was.
Boom,
Look,
doo, doo,
I
doo.
actually got goosebumps. I was like, "This is."
Yeah.
It's hard not to. It was a.
Yeah.
It was very manufactured, but it was a cool like save the day moment.
It was because instead of a big battle, everyone just starts disco dancing, and all of Springfield is dancing to Disco Inferno.
I like that though. There are some casualties later. You find out that Hans Moleman may or may not be dead.
Yeah.
Like there's just like a giant disco ball crush. Like you
Yeah.
just see his like legs.
We see him
sticking out.
his leg twitching under a disco
which,
ball.
like,
a little dark.
Twitching always bothers me.
It
and
does.
then you also see Sideshow Mel with a bone stuck in his like
A bone through his head,
Yeah.
not through his hair, through his
Yeah.
actual head.
And he goes, "Well, this is fair."
I mean,
well, he
yeah.
goes, "Well, this is fair."
because all's fair in Bone Hair War.
I mean, Mel's fair in Bone Hair War. Very weird that he
Very
said
weird.
all of that word for word.
It was
in the
very,
episode.
very strange. But it worked. I mean, ultimately, it's an episode with problems. I liked the general idea of it. I don't usually like when it ends in a musical number, but the whole town of Springfield dancing. It was a little weird that Moe's rape cult took away Hans Moleman's disco crushed body. I don't know what they're doing with that.
Yeah, because he's not Indian. He doesn't have hair.
There's no Indian hair to turn them into erections.
He's not a woman to rape.
No. Maybe they're branching out into necrophilia. I don't know.
Moe's necrophilia cult.
That's season 42.
I wouldn't put it past it. I mean, think about the trajectory Moe is on.
Yeah,
if it's just
pretty bad.
What is to make us think it's plateaued?
I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah, but also it was pretty graphic. This Dark Knight Rises
it
Two
was.
Tower. There was besides Mel and Hans. It was violence here.
Oh, violence here. That's an old one.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we've seen an episode this violent.
That's true. Yeah, it was bloody before it was dancing. It was very, very, very bloody.
But yeah, it didn't earn this ending. Like the fact that Homer had to rally Disco Stu and
right. When they're not even friends, it's not like a situation where it was Moe or Apu. Like, he doesn't know Disco Stu, and there wasn't even a scene of them being like, "My name is Homer Simpson. What's your name? I'm Stu Disco Son," or whatever the hell his name is.
Stu. The fact that we finally reveal that his name is actually Stu Disco Son.
Yeah.
Wait, is that why even though he's too young to appreciate a disco in its heyday,
he was born into it?
Because your name is Disco Son,
right?
You're just gonna naturally go, well, I'll try this music out since it has
since it's so close to my name.
If there was a music genre that died 30 years ago called Paconism,
you'd be all about it.
Yeah. Cone rock or something.
Cone rock.
I would check it out.
Yeah.
And then if I happen to like it,
that's why I love Hall & Oates.
Because your last name is Hall & Oates.
Because my last name is Holland Oates.
I didn't get that right away. You'd think the episode ends. There's one more. They do this weird coda they tack on.
Right, in the credits. Yeah.
Like it cuts to whatever the credits was. It wasn't even like created by Matt Groening. It was like it's a sound producer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then it cuts away from the credits. It's like, what's going on? It's like that. You ever see that weird cut of Kill Bill Volume 1?
No.
So when you saw Kill Bill Volume 1, the way I saw it was, spoilers, it's a close-up of the French lady and kills Kill Bill. Bill has her head in her hands and he goes,
yeah.
Does she know her daughter is still alive? And then it cuts to credits. And I'm like, whoa, cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I've seen cuts where it just goes, it's okay. And then it cuts to this weird credit. It's like associate producer Sally Menken or whatever it is.
Okay.
And then it cuts back out of nowhere. It's like, no, the movie's not over. And he goes, does she know her daughter is still alive? And then it cuts to written and directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, weird.
Like he was like doing a weird fake out. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know that one.
But anyway, this reminded me of this. Anyway, so they cut back to Flanders and Homer.
Right, to pay off that Flanders Homer thing earlier. And Flanders just says, Homer, where are my fish? Where did you do with my fish, Homer?
And it's weird because he's basically like he's doing a Jerry Sideways. Where's my fish?
Why did you take my fish?
And then Homer just starts doing like a George Costanza. He's just like, I got your fish right here.
Yeah. And then he throws a fish at Ned's face.
Yeah.
And then cut to black.
Well, it's all right. Let me explain the joke dance.
Okay,
you're kind of a dum-dum. You didn't go to Harvard.
I didn't go to Harvard.
It's so when you see it, so a fish looks funny.
Right.
Like it's a funny looking animal.
Yeah.
So and they kind of
have legs and arms.
Yeah, exactly.
And they smell.
So when you grab a fish and you smack somebody in the face with it,
okay,
that's comedy. Look, you didn't go to film school. I understand that you're not as well adversed in the language of comedy like I am.
Yeah, it's true.
Smacking somebody in the face with a fish.
That's very funny.
Hilarious. Stan.
Okay.
That's like the second thing they teach you. The first thing is there's the fire exit.
That's good. That's good to know because you don't want to be.
It was post 9/11.
You don't want to be in the shishi lounge because they don't have a fire exit.
Enjoy your death
trap, ladies.
Post 9/11. First thing they do is in case of
emergency. That's where you're going.
Yeah.
In case you need comedy, hit someone with a fish.
The fire exits are actually built by the Illuminati and lead to the secret tunnels because it's a hollow earth.
The fire exit will not help me. I have already passed on. I am stuck here with Grufik forever.
I wish there was a hell exit because I'm in hell.
Is the second little ghost girl the one I hate?
I'm two
ghost girls.
You're going down, Homer. I'm gonna fool you.
You talk better than you fool.
I'll fool you up real nice.
You couldn't fool your mother on the foolingest day of your life if you had an electrified fooling machine.
All right, so that's going to do it for this episode. One Fish, Apu Fish, Ned Fish, Disco Stu Fish. It is time to rank this episode on our patented hippo scale. So, Jack, please put 2 minutes on the clock.
Boom, boom, boom. Phoenix, boom, boom, boom. Jean Grey, boom, boom, boom. Phoenix, boom, boom, boom. Cable's mom.
All right, so season 41, episode 17, we're going to rank it on our hippo scale. Humor, the integrity, the production values, the originality. Jack, humor, 0 to 5. What are you thinking?
Jokes I liked.
Not many jokes I liked.
No.
It felt a little bit forced at times.
It felt extremely forced.
Like they were just kind of making it up as they went along.
I feel like they really didn't plan anything in advance.
Not a single thing.
Look,
it didn't turn out terrible.
When you go to the circus and you see there's a trapeze artist with no net, do you like it better? It's like, oh my God, there's no net. This is more intense. I don't like it because I'm like, holy shit, if this guy falls, I'm going to see a man die. I don't
need to see a guy die.
Look, what he's doing, whether there's a net or not, is impressive enough.
It's very impressive, yes.
I feel better knowing that if something, maybe he sneezes, maybe there's an earthquake. Who knows? Maybe he's having a bad day.
There's a 9/11. I don't know.
Maybe there's a 9/11.
It happens.
If something happens, he'll be okay.
Yeah.
Think of other things that are impressive, like a band that plays really good music or a good stand-up set. I don't need to know that they might
of
die.
Death, above them.
But anyway, I forget what we were saying.
We're talking about the humor.
How much time is left on the clock?
I think we have to reset the clock, actually.
Boom, boom, boom. Phoenix, boom, boom, boom.
Jean Grey. It's the clock.
All right, we have 2 minutes, yeah.
I'm going to go humor. I'm going to give it a 2. I'm going to give it a 2 for humor.
Yeah, I'll go to that. I'll go 2.
All right. The integrity of this episode. I don't know that this episode was in keeping with the previous episodes. Things seemed a little bit different.
So little of Disco Stu that it's hard to say this was against his character.
True.
All right, you know what? I got to take off like a full 1.5, 2 points.
Okay.
For Homer's weird defending of Vichy France. It's just I can't think of anything more out of character.
That was pretty out of character for The Simpsons.
The fact that
I
he
agree.
kept saying "us" when referring to the French people.
It was a little strange.
That's literally as out of character.
You're right. You know what? I'm going to deduct 2 points on that one. Actually,
0.5.
Yeah, 0.5 is fair. I'm going to give it a 0.5 as well.
Also, the emotional, this is the emotional category. There should be more emotion to the fact that Disco Stu it's very existential. He lost his identity.
Right.
Then claims his identity back. There should be more weight to that. There should be more weight to the emotion bone here.
And I thought the existential nature of it when Disco Stu woke up in the recording studio and just said, "Mama died today."
Yeah,
I thought that was a good reference to The Stranger by Camus, but it didn't need to be in the Simpsons episode.
Did his mom die?
I don't know. They never go back to that.
Wouldn't he go to her funeral?
I guess not.
And not deal with this weird. Why is he saving Springfield anyway?
They turned their back on him. I don't know.
They don't deserve his.
None of this was explained.
It's like High Noon. It's like basically they didn't deserve his savior anyway.
None of this was explained, but Jack, at the production category, I'm going to actually give this pretty high marks because the animation of the end of the episode, Battle Royal, I guess, the fight, that was really cool.
As disturbing as it was, the twitching of Hans Moleman was really cool.
Yeah, that was fun.
I liked the pan and scan. I liked the way
the pan and scan.
I liked when the sun rises. Again, I think that's where God's hands belong. Everything.
Right.
God, put your hands where they belong.
Hey, now. I'm gonna give this episode a 4 in production. I don't know. Is that crazy? Am I too high?
No, I think I'm gonna go 4 too.
All right.
I don't know if I could go 4.5 or could go 3.5.
Either way.
I'll go 4.
All right.
Okay.
And finally, the originality of this episode.
See, this is the toughest one for me because
this
is structure.
Structure?
Look,
yeah.
we haven't had a Disco Stu episode before. That's original.
It was pretty original. That's true. Nothing has been attempted like this before and will not be attempted again.
As much as I like the High Noon disco aspect, it really was pretty much a ripoff of Marge vs. the Monorail. That's no good.
That was a big, it was almost like they didn't think anything ahead of time and just fell back on a well-worn plot and just, was just thinking that maybe they could just tack some jokes onto that story bone.
Yeah, they probably should have just came up with something original. It would have been funnier.
It might have been.
Fans would have probably appreciated it more.
I mean, something original might not have made as much sense.
But it's okay.
In an episode that was already losing any kind of sense.
Okay. I'd rather it not make sense than there just be some trite ripoff of something that's already
all right, well.
But look, we said it had all the right elements, just in the wrong place. It's like somebody took the periodic table of elements and
jumbled
them all up.
Jumble it up.
So I don't know how to grade this because it's like, do we grade by the elements or do we grade by how the elements are ordered?
I don't know. You know what? I'm just gonna write down the middle, 2.5 on this one, originality.
That's too high. I'm gonna go.
I don't know what's happening anymore.
I'm trying
You're
to
saying 1, but maybe
say it.
0.5?
I want to see if it feels right. It's coming out. Usually it clicks, and I know I'm saying it right. So if I say
You sound like the whale in Finding Dory.
1.5.
All right, 1.5 it is.
I'll go 2.
Okay, 2 it will be.
No, 1.5. I don't know.
You got to lock in those answers.
I don't know.
You have 2 more seconds on the clock. 1 more second.
The 5.
5. Oh, man. All right, it's locked in.
I'm bad under pressure.
It's locked in.
I'm not good under pressure.
5 for originality.
Is this going to be
All
our
right.
best episode ever now?
It might be. All right, so we have crunched our numbers, and One Fish, Apu Fish, Ned Fish, Disco Stu Fish has ranked as a slightly better episode than The Curious Case of Benjamin de Bompton, and a slightly worse episode than the classic, The Old Hay Fair, She Ain't Wheat, She's Now Soybeans.
Yeah, that's a good. That seems
Number
about right.
41 on our list.
It seems right because
It's fair, I think.
because again, the elements are there. They're just all over the place.
Yeah, a bit jumbled, much like the Bompton one. You know, that one was much worse, but this
I
one was
like the
pretty
soybean
good.
one. I rank that a lot higher than
Soybean one is pretty funny, actually, but mostly in
Put a
retrospect.
0 in humor. So
Well, maybe I should revise it. Should we open up the rankings and re-rank every episode we've done?
I think we should watch. I think we should just do a redux.
Let's just start over. After episode 100, we're just going to start from scratch. We'll do Saddlesore Galactica again. That's not what we're going to do. That's going to be it for this episode of Worst Episode Ever, a Simpsons podcast. If you want to support the show, you can go to weepodcast.com. That's weepodcast.com. Click our Amazon links. Go to amazon.weepodcast.com if you're too lazy for that. And on the website, you can get all of our fun stuff, Reddit, Facebook. Tell us how much you liked this episode on Reddit.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy, is right. Or tell us how much you really loved this episode on Reddit.
Those are your options.
Those are the only 2 options. Review us on iTunes, all that fun stuff. And if you're in the Brooklyn area, Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia is going to be next week. First Thursday of every month. I co-host that with friend of the show, Dan Ozzie. That is at the King's Beer Hall in Williamsburg. Or not in Williamsburg. It's in Brooklyn. Just Google Park Slope-ish.
Yeah, I consider it more downtown Brooklyn. I guess it's Park Slope.
The King's Beer Hall. Google Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia. Get more information about that. We have anything else we have to say, Jack, before we close up the show here?
I guess so. I was going to say this for the very end, but I'll say it now. I would like to bring back, our 100th episodes next week. We're about to get into that. I'd like to bring back our Cut All This submissions.
Okay.
Maybe nothing official, like a Summer of Cats. But if you've got a Cut All This submission you want to send us, please feel free to do. I feel like a couple of you on Twitter or Facebook said, hey, where can I send this or how can I record it? And I don't even know if we ever got back to you. We've been kind of slacking on our social lately. We're busy people.
Busy people.
Busy bees.
Watching these
making our
episodes.
honey. So if you do want to do a cut all this, just use your phone. Record it on your phone, like a voice memo app or whatever the hell.
It doesn't have to sound as good as we do.
Email it in whatever format you can. I'll try to figure out how to convert it. And just if you can, keep it under like 30 seconds, please. Maybe like even 20 seconds. The shorter, the better.
Yeah.
We love the long ones we had, but our episodes have been running
We're
very
long enough
lately.
as it is.
So yeah, just you could just say cut all this, or you could give us a message, whatever you want to do. We love hearing from you. And look, if you've already done one, do another one, but then definitely keep it short, please.
You know why the show runs so long? Because we love the sound of our own voices. Like, I think we could just talk and talk and talk and just make a bunch of shit up.
Even if we didn't actually watch any Simpsons.
Even if we didn't actually watch an episode.
That would actually be preferable because it would save us about a half hour each record session.
It might be, because next week we're going to be watching an episode from season 23 called Mo Goes From Rags to Riches. It's not supposed to be very good.
That's what I hear.
So that should be fun.
I'm excited.
Looking forward to that. And that's going to be We 100 next week. So that's a biggie.
Yeah, Pat's off to us.
Pat's off to us. Where did Pat go? He's off. But he'll get back to us.
So submit your cuts, your cats, your kudu cop, bop boop bada bows.
Submit your kudu cuts.
But we don't have one, obviously.
We don't have one.
We probably won't. So how should we end this episode, Dan?
We will end it by saying Happy April, everybody, and goodbye from Worst Episode. Goodbye forever. Until the next episode.
Should that be? It took us 100 episodes, but should our end line be goodbye forever until our next episode?
Until our next episode.
All right. Well,
that might be it.
This is Jack and this is Dan saying
this is it. Goodbye forever. Until our next episode.
Now who's laughing? Now who's laughing?
And that's the story of April Fool's Day.
Dad, I was telling the story.
All right.